Hi, everybody. With me today, I have Byron, who is a graduate of our kinesiology college programs. I will let him introduce himself, tell us about his current job, and how he got there. Welcome, Byron.
Hello. Like Jennifer said, my name is Byron. I'm currently the sports coordinator for the YMCA's in Oshkosh. So I oversee all sports except for tennis and hockey uh, from all three locations at the Oshkosh YMCA. The downtown location, which I run a couple classes, preschool classes, and then my office is at the main 20th Avenue building where I'm in charge of the all the soccer leagues, the football leagues, the baseball league, all adult programming, all preschool and drills and skills classes. So a lot of stuff is under me, and I'm enjoying it. I've been here for 6 months, and every single day is a different task to do.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I think people find that in community ed or even in nonprofit sports arenas. Your job title might not exactly match up with all your duties, but
Yeah.
how did you find the why, or what attracted to you this position?
So, what kind of attracted me to the Y is that originally um, I was a park and rec coordinator. I was doing park and rec work for the city of St. Paul, doing like different classes, sports classes at different schools to promote our sports leagues. And I kind of wanted to move back towards Wisconsin, and they don't run like your traditional park and rec work like the city of St. Paul does, which is an amazing
Mhm.
program if you're looking to get involved in that. That's a branch to look into, is that. But the big thing around where I'm from is YMCA's. So I just started looking at YMCA's around here, and I came across a job that said sport coordinator, and it just kind of the that alone, I was like, okay, I can do that. I can coordinate the sports, and then kind of reading the description of like all the sports that I have to like be in charge of, like making sure that the jerseys get all that. I was like, that sounds like a lot of fun for me, and it's been enjoyable for me.
Yes. And you were a student athlete at Concordia, and a lot of our sport management and exercise science students are student athletes. However, do you think that it's a requirement to be a student athlete to be able to step into the sports and recreation arena?
No, it's not a requirement. A big thing though is just that you have a passion for sports. It doesn't mean that you had to be in, like, you didn't have to play college football. You didn't have to play D1 football or sports or anything like that. It's just that you have to have a love of sports and want to be able to, especially in what I'm doing, you have to have a passion of giving back to the community that love of sports that you have in you, so that like kids at the age of 4 years old, even though they can't dribble a basketball, still get to say they played basketball and enjoy it.
Yes, that's awesome. You get to see the whole cross section of society, right? And sports really do play a big role in youth development and self-esteem and all of that stuff. So talk us through, I know this is a loaded question, but talk us through a typical day or a typical week, or with the Y, I know there's seasons, right? They're up and down, and it's kind of feast or famine with what's happening at the Y.
Yeah, so it's really dependent on the season. Like right now, coming up, like from now until June is our busiest season. We have, I believe it's 5 different youth leagues that run during that time, and then we have 4 different adult leagues that run during that time, and then we have 3 different preschool sessions and stuff like that. So it gets extremely hectic, but normally a typical week for me, I on my Mondays, I have to put together all of the name tags for our preschool classes, which in a usual session we have about 9. So I have to get 9 name tags ready. I have to go into, we use um, an app called Team Linked to communicate with all of our teams so that we don't have to send out emails and all that fun stuff. But I have to go in, I have to update all the games for the adult leagues and the high school leagues that we run. I have to wash all the jerseys that are used, all the pennies that are used for the different leagues over the weekend. And then usually, then it's just like some smaller emails responding to people, a fight between two coaches, or a kid didn't get enough playing time, stuff like that. That's usually my Monday. Tuesdays are my preschool classes days. So I start off my day teaching a preschool class, do another program for like younger kids with sports as well, and then kind of just respond to emails again that day. And then at the end of the day, I finish off my day teaching four preschool classes back to back to back of like different things. Either we do t-ball, soccer, just regular sports class, and then football. So it depends on the session, but it's usually I have four classes that I have to do at that time. And then after that, I usually set up for some type of league that's going on that night. Usually, like a high school league is running. So I set up the scoreboard, and then I set up I set out the pennies, and then contact the ref, and then I head out. And then same same stuff as with that as Wednesday, except I don't teach the classes. I set up the classes, and then I set up a league, and then more emails, and then my Thursday and Friday is a little more laid back, and then it's usually just responding to emails, getting stuff ready for the next leagues, like contacting our sponsors, potential sponsors, sponsors that we already have, so that we get all their information on our registration. Um, Getting together like engage emails, which are emails that we send out to like people that haven't signed up for our programs. And then usually I have to work on Saturday. It's mainly just me coming in and making sure that all of our refs show up. For like this weekend, we have our basketball, our first week of basketball. So I have to come in, make sure all the basketball refs show up, all the scoreboard people show up. And then I also help out, hand out the jerseys because it's the first week.
Sure. So it sounds like a combination of administrative duties, but then also hands-on duties, which I think is important, especially for our sport management students to know that you do need some office skills, right? You will be returning phone calls and talking to parents and getting contracts and things signed, but then there's also the other end where you're actually leading the programming as well.
Yeah, it's when I first started, I thought it was like, oh, I'll either just do administration or I'll be communicating. But really, with sports, managing sports, it's you're doing all of it, and it's fun because it's of all the chaos that goes with it. I mean, every single day has a new challenge, a new thing, and it's just that's just what it is. It's a
Yeah.
little of both.
Yeah. So you have to be ready to pivot. And you talked about working with both youth and adults. If we had people watching this video that are thinking, oh, I want to work youth sports or I want to work adult sports, what have you found about, what have you noticed about differences between working with those populations?
So adult sports comes with a lot more competition. So you have a lot more of like having to deal with, we have like a yellow card, red card system for our soccer leagues because we have 24 teams in one of our leagues, and it always starts a fight. And usually it's just it gets the adult adds an extra layer of chaos with just the fact that people are more conscious and more of like competitive about it because everyone knows, even though there's nothing really at stake with it, there's a lot at stake for them. With youth, it's more of the fact of just how many kids are involved in it. I mean, our basketball league that we're going to be starting this weekend, we have 300 kids signed up uh, from that is from 4K to eighth grade, and you can't treat the 4K uh, rules as the same as the eighth grade. So you have to go in and change the rules. So there's more of like just rewriting stuff for each grade level. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of differences actually, and um, even just like adult itself and youth itself have their own like positions that they could have in their own.
And then you're kind of the, I don't want to say peacemaker, but you need to be able to step into either of those roles, right? And communicate differently with adults, communicate differently with students. So there's a lot of kind of behind the scenes things going on to make it appear smooth, even though maybe on the back end it's not so smooth.
Yeah, yes, it's definitely like when I'm teaching my preschool classes, you can't get a little bit snippier with them. You can't raise your voice. You gotta be calm with them. But like when you're talking with an adult, that's like, why am I getting kicked out of the league? And it's like you dropped like 15 F bombs in a span of like 1 minute, and
Yeah,
then you spit at a ref. We can't allow you in our program. You gotta go.
right.
It's just kind of balancing how to communicate with people is the big
Totally.
thing.
Yeah, totally. So your job, could be considered entry level or maybe mid-level management. If somebody is listening to you and thinking, this sounds cool, where do I go next? Like, what would be something else that you might look for next, or what would be a next step within the industry for you that might gain a little more, accomplishment, or maybe supervising more people, or what kind of what might those steps look like for moving up within the industry?
So for me, and a lot of Ys are different. Each Y is kind of run differently. I'm actually not the head of the sports department. There is a sports director, and that would be technically the next position for me uh, when I'm like ready, or if something were to happen and our director would leave. That would be the next step that I would take. Um, that includes budget work. I don't do I don't do the budget, but with the director, they do mostly the budget, um, and then they oversee. They're the final say on the hiring and firing of people. I can I help contribute to it, but they're like the end all be all. And then
Mhm.
after that would be um, after the director like that would kind of oversee the Y itself, um, or switch to another director position,
Mhm.
which most I personally wouldn't want to move out of the sports department. I enjoy working with the sports more.
Yeah. And other people who might again be in a position like yours. So if they say the YMCA isn't a good fit, you talked about being in St. Paul Parks and Rec. There are other private industries. So what does the youth sports industry or even the adult sports industry look like? Who are some big players, or what are some of the things students should think about if they want to get into this industry?
Well, the big thing, if you're looking to get into the industry, is know what's the big thing, like youth sports wise, in your area. Um, there are plenty of small private entities up in the city of St. Paul, like I think it's IM or something like that. No, it's I4, I believe it is. I've
Mhm.
seen jobs like that. But like city of St. Paul Parks and Rec Department, those are a lot of entry level jobs. Um, another thing is getting yourself into a random Parks and Rec department. I mean, it's not going to have, you're going to be in charge of camps and stuff like that, but you're also going to be in charge of all the sports stuff. You're going to be the end all be all for softball, baseball, all that, but kind of just knowing what's in the area and like who's the head person in the area. Like for me, the Oshkosh YMCA has kind of a monopoly over all of rec sports in the city of Oshkosh. So I had to, if I was going to go anywhere in Oshkosh sports wise, I was either going to have to go through the schools and be more of a teacher, or I was going to have to go through the YMCA. So it's kind of just knowing your area is the big thing for doing your research and knowing that.
Yeah, that's awesome advice for sure, because you want to know who the big players are and the people who are attracting the customers, right? So
Yeah.
yeah. Let's pivot a little bit and talk academics. So the classes that you took at Concordia, you probably had a sport and law, fundraising class, a intro to sport management. How do you see what you learned in the classroom playing out in your job?
I mean, I kind of just like looking at all my classes that I had. I mean, a big one for me, because I'm in charge of also like the soccer arena that's here. I have to oversee like the rules and regulations of that. So I kind of look at like my facility and event management class, and also with all the leagues, that's a huge one. Pay attention in that class. Um, Anything finance or money wise will be able to get you leaps and bounds over people. Um, Even though I'm not part of the budget, my director is still teaching me stuff about it, but I already know the basic information because of those finance classes. And if you're going to be anything above entry level, you're going to be involved in money in some extent. So you have to know that information. Um, I'm trying to think of other classes. Um, I mean, it's just kind of like when you have those classes communicating, like sports communication, even just your like gen eds,
Mm-hmm.
like public speaking, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's helped me because I have to run different coaches meetings to get all the information, and being able to communicate properly to those coaches either via email or in an actual meeting or just in a casual conversation can
Mm-hmm.
help you a lot.
Yeah. And those are some of the soft skills that you don't you're not they're not necessarily an assignment in a class, but they come
Yeah.
as kind of an extra added bonus for sure. When you think about yourself and your own professional journey and personal journey, what are a couple of things that you've learned about yourself in your years since graduating?
A big thing that I've learned about myself is some of the skills that I didn't know that I had until like getting into the field and actually working. One of the big things is I didn't know that uh, I could work well with kids. I've in both jobs that I've had since leaving Concordia, I've had to de-escalate situations, fights with kids. I've had to organize leagues. I've had to calm down kids. So just some of the skills you learn afterwards are a huge thing. Uh, Another thing that I've kind of learned is that no one's gonna hold your hand and do things for you. If you want something, you got to go out and do it yourself. If you can't ask one of your staff to do something that's kind of above their pay grade, and you just gotta, even though sometimes you may think, oh, I don't want to do that, you just gotta go out and do it because then you're also gonna know that it's done the right way because it's the way that you want it done.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And I think especially in Parks and Rec jobs or YMCA jobs, you have a lot of other duties as assigned. So it might not be in your job description, but you're going to pitch in because you love the mission and you love being involved with the community for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I've had to do multiple tours. I had
Yep.
to do a tour within my first month of working here, and that was an interesting thing because I hadn't really been to this location ever, but still being able to like give a tour. But I mean, you kind of lean on like this is our mission, this is what we do, this is why I work here, this is why I care about what I do, and then kind of just that. So
Yeah, totally. Final question for our interview today. If we have a student who's watching this and thinking, I want to get into the sport management or sport and recreation field, what is going to set that student apart, right? There's 100 resumes for one sports coordinator job. What, how is that student? What experience should they get? What should they be looking for to help set them apart?
A big thing that's gonna set them apart is putting things on resumes that they may not even think really matter to them. Put everything that is experience on a resume. I've known people put clubs on there. I've had multiple friends get jobs just because they were in certain multiple clubs because that shows that they're like they know how to work with a team. They also know how to communicate. Um, Even just putting like random stuff on your resume, like something like a job that you had in high school. Because I put my job that I worked at a minor league baseball team in high school, and um, that helped me get this current job because they're like, oh, he already knows kind of like managing sports stuff,
Mhm.
like he's already been in a situation like that. So putting stuff that honestly you might think, and also communicating saying, hey, is this worth putting on there in your head? It's most likely going to be a yes. Another thing uh, that's going to kind of put you, give you a competitive edge is uh, asking questions in any situation. Ask your teachers questions. I remember I had Dr. Huberty in my first sports management class, and most of the classes I would spend like 30 minutes after just talking and asking questions. My current position, I ask questions. I'm curious about what he does so that when I make that next step, I already know what I'm getting into and I already know what to put on my resume of things that I can do that gives me that position.
Perfect answers. And we got those for free today. Thanks, Byron. Any other last minute advice that you'd give for students?
Um, I guess connecting, a big thing. If you anyone in your class, connect with them. I have connections already now just because I we do sponsorships. Connecting with anyone that you can. You should have a LinkedIn. Create the LinkedIn, even if you don't have like specific experience. Create the LinkedIn, connect with those people, get phone numbers. Just kind of expand your tree of what's it called? Uh, Connections, because a big thing in sports management is knowing people. And I mean, someone might come out of the woodwork like 20
Mhm.
years down the line and be like, oh, I remember we we worked at this job or we had this class, and they can help propel your career forward more than you just working as hard as you possibly can. But that's in addition with your hard work. Doing both of those can excel you to do whatever you want to do.